Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick. In today's video, I want to talk about why your crested gecko is making sounds. So let's get right into it. So the sounds that I'm talking about are the little chirps or little vocalizations that your crested geckos do. And you may hear them from time to time, and you may hear them when you're holding them. And you probably wondered what that is. A lot of people think it's cute, and to be honest, it is very cute, but what it really is it's them. They're very stressed out. Typically, if you're holding your gecko and it makes a chirping sound, it's because your gecko's stressed out and it really doesn't want to be around you anymore. Majority of the time that you'll find them chirping is if you have them in a position where you're petting their head. Okay, so think about this from their vantage point with their little brains. Something coming from above in the wild would be what? A bird, what else would it be? I guess a bird, you know, birds come from above. But it'd be some other animal, right? If it was chomping down, going for their head, that scares them. Okay, so when people pet their heads, you're putting pressure on their head, which is signaling in their brain, oh, something's trying to eat me. Like I'm being attacked, I'm about to be killed, what's going on? So when you're pushing on their brain like that, it freaks them out because millions upon millions upon millions of years of evolution has told them that this is no good and this might be the end for you. Now, another situation where you might hear chirping or some vocalization or something like that is if you're holding them in a manner that constricts them. If you see how I'm holding Louise, now Louise is one of my better handleable geckos. She's very calm right now because, you know, we've had 2.5 years or so together, and she knows that I'm not going to eat her at this point. So when I'm holding her in this manner, she's not freaked out. You can see I'm letting her walk. If she wants to get away from me, in theory she can, but I'm holding my hand out as a little branch for her. And she's chill with that, but she's also been, like I said, she's one of my better handleable geckos, because she's just chill. And I don't think that, I've talked about this before, I don't think that they enjoy handling by any means. But, so you can see there, she jumped away. I just grab her real quick, put her back in a position where I'm not forcibly, like, having her be with me. She could jump right now, and they all have, right? That's what crested geckos do. They love to jump from 7 stories in the air and just land on their belly to make you think that they're gonna die, but then they don't, you know, because they're these little malleable creatures. Long story short, if your gecko is making that chirping sound whenever you're handling them, stop handling them for the day, try again in 2 or 3 days, and then do a different approach, you know. If you're, guys, it's gonna vary too, per female, per male, per whatever. You're gonna find that some geckos are just not really in the mood to be handled ever. Some geckos like Louise here, like Louise has been held by some 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, things like that, and she's been fine. She's bit one of them, but that's because he had his hand over her, and it freaked her out. Now, also to remember, when these guys bite you, it's very vicious and a minimum of 14 stitches, so keep that in mind before you just go willy-nilly handling them. You know, they have jaws of steel. They're used to biting into rotten fruit. I don't know if you know how hard rotten fruit is, but these can't handle it. So anyway, back to the important stuff. Anytime that they're just like vocalizing, put them up, come back in a couple days, try it out. Some, like I said, some geckos are forever going to be in a pissy mood with you, and they're going to be like, don't touch me, get away from me, I don't want to be near you. Some geckos don't necessarily enjoy being handled, but they've created this association with you that you're a positive person, you're a positive influence, you feed them, you water them, you do all this good stuff for them, and then some of them will jump on you. Now that's more than likely you're going to get a gecko that doesn't prefer to be held compared to a gecko that's like trying to jump for you. But majority of the time you might end up with something like this, who once she's out of her little, you know, little tub, she's chill and she's fine. So something to keep in mind. Let's talk about breeding chirps, okay? Breeding chirps are an entirely different thing. And I guess before we talk about breeding, I should talk about when males chirp. sometimes if you're holding a male and he's like chirping or he's making this like weird, like, it's just this weird noise that they make, he might be trying to mate with your hand, because that's very possible and that happens to a lot of people. That is something that he just wants to mate with your hand. And because they vocalize when they mate to an extent, you're not, I mean, it's not super loud or anything, but if you're next to the tank, you will definitely hear it. And if you're holding him and he tries to mate your hand, you will hear it. So he's trying to mate with your hand, he's telling your hand like, hey, I'm about to mate with you, and your hand doesn't chirp back, so he's thinking, okay, coast is clear, here we go. So then he starts mating with your hand. So that chirp is, I guess, positive. I mean, I don't know. Take that, you can take that however you want to. If you think that that's a positive, that your gecko likes mating with your hand, then more power to you, you know? That's great. That's great. Fantastic. But if not, I mean, some geckos will only do that during breeding season. Some geckos seem to be horn dogs all year round. Really just depends. So male to male to male, it's going to be different. I have Waylon, who every time I try to hold him, he'll poop in my hand or pee in my hand or something like that. I can hold Thurman all day long and he does not care. He will not mate with my hand. He will not do anything. Waylon's mated with Megan's hand before. So here's just a case of two geckos here and two vastly different personalities. If you do go to mate your crested geckos, expect there to be some vocalization, okay? And whenever you introduce the male and a female and they finally find each other and they're kind of like on top of each other, you want to look for, the male's going to be chirping, right? So like 99% of the time the male is going to mate. I have heard and I've talked to people who have had males that just don't mate, or they've never seen a successful lock. Now that could be the female, right? The female could just be taking 4 to 5 to 6 months to lay eggs, which, guys, that does happen. That's not super uncommon. It can take a very long time for, once the season starts, for them to start laying. So don't get too concerned with that. But some people think that their males aren't mating. More than likely your male is mating. I mean, you got to think, these guys were literally only, like, their sole reason to survive is to reproduce and to keep colonizing, right? Like, they don't have the brain power that we do to want to be, like, more in life than just, like, reproductive people. You know, like, we want to do things. These guys are like, hide, mate, eat. That's all we need to do to survive, guys. And it's pretty evident, too, by how many eggs they lay. So you got to think, in the wild, most of those eggs are not making it. And these guys lay a ton of eggs. So if your sole purpose is to mate, then more than likely your male is mating. It's just taking a long time for the to meet up. But that's neither here nor there. If your female is chirping back, that can be a good sign and it can be a bad sign. I've had it to where the female kind of chirps back and then she raises her butt as if she's receptive. So then that way the male is like, okay, cool, we're good to go. I've had it other times I've introduced them, they chirp, he goes in to bite her, she wiggles her head around and bites him in the face right back. That's definitely happened. And I've seen this girl do that. So now whenever she mates, it's a little more supervised, a little more daily check-ins on everybody. Because once you see a female who is a biter and a fighter, then they're not really, probably not going to change, right? That's kind of who they are, which is fine, and that's something that'll happen. So chirps are good, and they can be bad. You just really have to interpret that situation. The best telltale sign is if you see the female raising her tail or raising her butt up in the air like this. If you see that, like her going up and like getting a position like this, that's a good sign. That means that she's receptive to mating. And like I said, when they're not receptive, it is very evident. You really shouldn't have to rely on chirps, but that's another time you're going to hear chirps. And you might hear them in the night. I mean, I know that there were times where I've been in here at night and you can hear when I have a pairing going on, you can hear some chirps in there. Just kind of let it ride. You know, by this point, I kind of know most of my animals and I know who's the mean one, who's not, who's the easy mater, who's not. So depending on who's with who, I kind of know what to expect. And another thing too is you might hear a difference in the chirping if it's receptive or not. And that's something too. When a female, if she's chirping somewhat like low and not very loud, then that's receptive from what I've seen. Whenever she gets in this like really like like this loud, mean, like louder chirp, meaner chirp, a more violent chirp, then she's not receptive. So once again, it's going to vary situation to situation. There is no 100% handbook or guidebook to any of this. I'm just kind of telling you what I've seen and kind of how I dealt with it. So if you're holding your gecko and it chirps, put it up. That's kind of the easiest thing to follow from here. And just, that's kind of the reason I wanted to make this video, is because I think a lot of people think that it's like this super cute and fun thing. And it is really cute to us, but to them it's very stressful. So just remember that. But it's going to wrap up the video, guys. I hope that this video helped out, and I hope that it made sense. You know, geckos are chirping, you know, that is what it is. But anyway, until next time, guys, stay safe and stay positive.